37. Michael put a little letter in front of DDG on the on the dock, and it almost messed me up.
Did I? Did I? Oh yeah, yeah. My bad. My bad.
We are Digital Days Gaming. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How is it going, Dave? You busted out the beer. So should I
Yeah,
be worried?
no, I'm good. Just stressful. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'm on a long day, a long run at work, and our state started the mask mandation today. So
It wasn't already mandated,
in
or
counties, yeah, and she had highly
okay.
recommended it, but it doesn't matter. The governor um sent it out today as like today it started formally like alleged fines and all that fun stuff for not wearing masks in
Mm.
indoor areas and crowded areas of where you can't have 6 feet of separation. So we'll see how that goes. But
Probably it'll be fun. It'll be interesting.
it's
You're
fine.
gonna get some Karens.
99% of the people, 99.9% of the people are perfectly fine. So
You'll get that one person though that you'll
uh,
talk about for weeks.
I had
I'm
one
like, can you
last
believe
week,
she
but
recorded?
it's all good. So
Okay. I'm just waiting to see, someone, post a video of you telling them to wear a mask.
yeah, to see me, that would be great.
Yeah,
It would really
it's
help
gonna
us, though.
be.
I bet. Like if I could just get a Digital Day shirt all the time.
Can you get a Digital Days
Oh yeah,
Gaming
like a
face mask
mask.
with our logo? Yeah, you can wear it at work. It'll be great.
Oh man, that would be
Might need to
hilarious.
make that happen.
Yeah, get trending on TikTok with our logo on my face. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Anyway, so you guys are here for the weekly video game podcast. Like I said, that's Michael. I'm Dave. We record every week. We also did this yesterday because of Ubisoft Forward. So I get to see Michael twice in 24 hours, and we see each other virtually all the time anyway. So our relationship isn't really that different post COVID or
Yeah.
pre COVID. So,
It's pretty much the same.
yeah. So
Dave's a little more sleepy.
yeah, because you just get to sit at home. So.
Hmm.
Um, as always, sharing the show, getting more eyes on the show is a great way to help us grow and to show support. Following us on social media, subbing to us on Twitch. If you guys could check your Amazon Prime subs periodically, that would be much appreciated. Subs are kind of a little bit of a roller coaster ride, but I prefer not to flatten this curve. I'd prefer to increase this curve. Uh, so if you could check your sub on us, and if you're willing to resubscribe or add a subscription to us as well, whether you want to do it as a paid sub, as an Amazon Prime sub, any of those things are greatly appreciated. We need to, of course, him and I need to do a better job of being on Twitch for you guys to be there to see us live and to remember to sub for us. So that's something that we're trying to work around and figure out a good balance of, because we did a lot of podcasting in June and we've already been talking about it a little bit today. We're going to be doing a lot of podcasting in July. So it
Yeah, a lot, a
takes a
lot.
little bit of the energy away. So I can't imagine what we would have to do if we had to edit. Angela's been a huge help, between both of us editing and video editing as well. So it's a huge. She's home too, sitting around most of the time. So,
And now we lost our editor. Great
nah.
job, Dave.
All right. So, listening this week, obviously, if you are here for the Ubisoft Forward news, we will not really talk about that at all. We'll talk a little bit of Ubisoft as there's a new story, and also if you want to know our thoughts on what was shown at the Ubisoft Forward for July, just go back one episode in your feed. It's right there. So check that out, and again, share, review. Tell a friend, tell the neighbor, tell the person that's not wearing a mask to listen to our show when they put their mask on. All the
Yeah.
above. So, all right, we're gonna jump right into it. So we did have another event last week. Devolver Digital did their Devolver Direct.
Yeah, this was the continuation of the Devolver storyline with Nina Struthers, I believe is her name. And it was weird. It was just under an hour, and it was mostly storyline. It was mostly them continuing the takedown of the video game industry, the way they do stuff. It's done for comedic effect, but damn, do they hit some truths during that press conference every year. Not a ton of stuff came out of it. A fair amount of like cool stuff, but for the most part, it was just stuff we already knew existed and was just given dates. First up, Shadow Warrior 3. It was leaked, I think, a week before the press conference, because of course. It was. So they showed off a decent amount of gameplay in a very stylish trailer, and that's set for 2021. Personally, for me, I'm excited for Shadow Warrior 3. It's one of those franchises that I feel like I shouldn't like, just because it's kind of like just a childish shooter, but the gameplay's always been really fun. I reviewed the previous two games in the franchise, so I'm looking forward to trying that out. Elsewhere, like I'm just gonna go over like the more notable things that happened. Uh, Fall Guys, which is a 60-player battle royale game show sort of thing, got dated for PS4 and PC August 4th. That is a really fun game from what I played of it last year, and I'm really excited for it. They still don't have any word on crossplay. I don't think it's coming anytime soon, or it will be a thing, period. So I'm hoping, because it's a player battle royale game, that they can do some crossplay for that. But it's definitely a game to check out. Like, when that game does come out, I do plan to stream that frequently, just because it's just one of those. Like,
have they talked about, is that going to
game.
be singles? Is it going to be duos? Is it going to be trios? Have they even talked about that?
It's just single players, because it's everyone for themselves sort of thing. So there would be like no teamwork in it.
Yeah.
But it's just a bunch of different mini games. Yeah. It's just a bunch of different mini games that you're just, each round knocks out a certain amount of people, and you just battle till you're the last one. Really fun. Definitely check out like a trailer for that, or the trailer they put up. They actually had Shuhei Yoshida introduce it, and now Shuhei is in the Devolver digital cinematic universe, as well as like Phil Spencer and my uncle from Nintendo, who they used. Another thing that I thought was notable from it was Carrion, which is like a reverse horror game where you actually play the monster, as opposed to playing like the soldier fighting a monster. So it's a side-scrolling like shooter, but you're not shooting anything. You're just controlling a tentacle monster, and it looks like you can possess like the soldiers trying to stop the monster. And that is coming to PC, Switch, Xbox One on July 23rd, and it will be on Xbox Game Pass. So it went from a game that I'm buying to day one to a game I am downloading on Game Pass day one. Unless the Switch port is really good, because I like playing those retro-style games, those like side-scrolling pixelated games on the Switch. But if you have Xbox Game Pass, definitely worth a shot. I just hope it is Game Pass on PC and Xbox, because they still haven't quite figured out that for Game Pass just yet. Other than that, there was one kind of cool thing. Devolver released a free-to-play experience game called Devolverland Expo, where they basically recreated the Los Angeles Convention Center, and you can walk around and play a bunch of mini games and basically go to booths for the various games announced during the Devolver Direct. So kind of cool that they did that, filling a void. They even have like the PR company's tables like at that like demo. So definitely check that out. I don't know how long that will be available for. Sometimes stuff like this just disappears after a while. So recommend downloading that, just because it's just a cool thing. It'll fill that void if you miss going to conventions, and you can do horrible things at the convention, because I saw some gunplay happening there as well. So that was it for Devolver Digital. So nothing crazy, but it's not really about. It sounds weird. It's not really about the games. It's about like their weird story that they've been telling.
It is, though. It's the storyline that they're telling, and while they're telling this story, they're kind of breaking a little bit of news or dropping some release dates or showing a new game. So
it definitely felt this year more than previous years that the focus wasn't the games, though. They put a lot more work into the story for this.
And that could be because they didn't really have a lot to show, but I think people are still there. It's becoming an expectation of something,
Yeah. They did have commentary on that of just like there's so many directs, there's so many games coming out, every company's doing their own presentation, stuff's just being lost in the shuffle. So I almost feel like that's why they held back just a little bit on game reveals. There was a fair amount of it, but it wasn't like an avalanche that we're used to seeing. So they definitely to their own crazy ass story and didn't go like full on with it. Okay, so the next
hold up. Check your connections, because you sound kind of choppy right now.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I don't hear you at all.
How is this? Is this better?
Yeah, that does seem better. So.
Okay. I don't know why I get choppy lately. I'm gonna be forced to get a new microphone.
No, I don't know if you need a new microphone. You just might need a new cable. So.
Okay. All right. I'll try not to bump this cable too much.
No, it's all good.
All right.
So.
Okay.
Just give it a second, and then we'll jump in. So.
Okay. The next story here, which just kind of happened within the last couple hours. There's a report from Video Game Chronicle that Skull and Bones has been rebooted. It sounds like it has been rebooted a couple times we were just talking about during the Ubisoft recap, like 4 years ago that it was announced.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like it has been rebooted, and it looks like they are going with a live service direction with this, which is something that we kind of theorized about during the recap.
You guessed, and I'm like, oh god, please no.
yeah, and I might be right apparently. So the quote from the Video Games Chronicle is as follows: Skull and Bones won't function in the same vein as games as service titles like The Division 2, but Ubisoft's massive live service does indeed regularly receive updates. Its world and content is essentially static. Skull and Bones, on the other hand, is expected to be livelier, taking inspiration from live storytelling features that pervade Fortnite and more recently the way Bungie is handling Destiny 2. So, sounds like they're going to go the Fortnite route in terms of just constantly changing the world or finding a constant, because I don't think anyone can compete with Fortnite in terms of how frequently that world changes.
I mean, I think it depends on what they would do or not do to the game. So, like, if it's still going to be a pirate ship combat game, and I think that something like that could have a type of seasonal aspect model to it, of where you're maybe, depending on the different seasons, you're in different seas, possibly, or different environments, and then certain seasons show certain ships. Because they like originally, I mean, but it's also hard to say because it sounds like they're saying that they've kind of rebooted it all in general. Like there were class-based ships in this game, like fast-moving ones and tank-style ones that could take a lot of damage and be in like close quarters, and then like even ones that could ram another boat. And then there was like a boarding, like you could actually board onto another ship. Which was always interesting, but they didn't really have anything that you did once that happened. It kind of was just like a goal that you achieved. Everything was about the combat of the ship, and you were picking up loot, quote unquote loot, like as like driving over it, in the boat. There was never any extensive like on deck combat or anything like that. So if that's been added to this, possibly like that could be interesting, but it also is one of those things where we've always talked about like the skill gap. Like, is it you could all of a sudden be a really good like on deck combat player, or you could be a really good like ship captain, like in terms of your ability to maneuver. So I think that in terms of a live service game, the first thing that concerns me is a balance standpoint. But from a seasonal cosmetic standpoint, I think you could totally accomplish this in a pirate ship fighting game.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a ton of options for where you can take this game, different time periods, different sort of ships. I'm sure you get crazy with cosmetics for your pirate and for your ship. Though it doesn't really sound like they're going to be focusing on any sort of story. It's also mentioned that they want to make it more about... I think
you have to, though, if you're trying to portray a living world, like the way the world lives is through story.
But if you just want to make a playground for people, you don't really need a story. We talked about this with like Hyperscape in terms of like, yeah, there's a story in that to build up the universe, but how many people are really going to pay attention to it? But that also requires the gameplay to be at a certain level that people can focus on that.
But if they're referencing Destiny as a possible example of what they're trying to do, Destiny quote unquote living world and the way that things are evolving and growing even currently now in the game, week to week, month to month, there is actual physical world changes happening.
But they also mention Fortnite, and Fortnite changes, but they had Deadpool in their game for no reason, and Captain America, they just do stuff and there's no real story reason for it. So it depends on how far or like where on the spectrum they want to go. If they want to go full Fortnite or go the Destiny route. Right. One is more careful and the other is like hazardly just done on a whim based on whatever contracts they can get. If they want to get, like crazy with it and, there's a Vikings Assassin's Creed game coming out, they can include the Viking ships in that and they can go kind of all over the place, just Assassin's Creed with it. Or if they want to like keep like a Skull and Bones Bible that they follow, basically, like this is the lore and this is the story, they could do that. They would have to go the Destiny route and like take everything careful. Like everything has to be there for a reason.
Yeah, I mean,
so
Destiny's on
a balance.
Destiny's on a slow drip right now, like in terms of like every 14, 21 days they drop another droplet of content, and then over the season they take, instead of just releasing something on day 1 or day 2 of a 90 or 100-day season, they released a little bit on day 1, a little bit on day 12, a little bit on day 18, a little bit on day 25, and they're kind of like spreading it out over the entire season. Versus like, for the most part, I feel like Fortnite does a lot of stuff at the beginning of the season. Hey, new cool shiny stuff to look at, earn this stuff, and then they do something cool as they transition from the end of the season to the start of the next season. And they do the big transitions, but they do sprinkle a lot of little stuff during the season as well. But like big important things, or as important as you can get in a game like that, it is definitely like transitional. Yeah. Sort of thing. So I mean, it's interesting because I was saying that I was hoping for some kind of single player content. You were saying that you were wondering what other route they were going to go, and we both were kind of wrong because they went right in the middle of both of us.
Yeah, pretty much. And this probably means this game is even further out. So I was hoping we at the end of the year or whenever the next Ubisoft Forward is, and probably we'll skip that time frame as well. So maybe we'll see it and Dave will play it at a third E3 next year. But yeah, at least we know it's not dead, or at least according to these reports, which these unconfirmed reports, things can change or not happen. So at least as far as we know, this is still like thrown away that work or just jammed it into another game. Because that's kind of how this game was born. It's just like, oh, the stuff from Black Flag is really cool. Let's build out a whole game to it. And I could totally see all the work being done on this game being like, oh, let's put it into our Viking Assassin's Creed game and like forget about like this game in general. So at least it's still a lot. All right, let's move on to the next.
Stop for a second. You're still really. Let's end the Discord call and start it again. So.
Okay. Okay. Does that sound better?
It does, but it sounded better earlier too. So.
Okay. It might just be some internet thing. Yeah. Hopefully the actual recording's good.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I feel like my internet speed's been decent.
So. Yeah, mine was pretty good too.
I mean, my upload's not great, but
yeah. Okay. So we'll just wait a couple seconds. I want to check my recording, but I would have to stop it, and I don't want to stop it because it might be the only good thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So we don't know if the Discord backup is good.
All right.
Technical difficulties for anyone that's actually watching. Okay. All right, moving on to the next story, we have a lot of business talk as the last couple months have just talked about acquisition after acquisition after acquisition. This is yet another story of someone buying someone else. Okay, I might mispronounce this, but it's like Layu Technologies is the parent company of a couple different studios. Splash Damage, the people that made Brink and Gears Tactics. And they also own the studio Digital Extremes, which is the Warframe studio. So super popular Warframe.
Mm-hmm.
It was rumored that Sony was kind of kicking the tires and looking to purchase them. And looks like they were getting really serious about it until Tencent jumped in. And Tencent has now basically purchased exclusivity rights to negotiate with Layu Technologies, meaning, according to some of the numbers, the reports, they have like 2 to 3 months to negotiate a deal with Layu Technologies and the ownership of their properties, and they basically have iced out Sony from continuing negotiations for this and other people that were interested in buying them
during this window.
During this window. So it's not a guarantee they're going to buy them. It just means they get all the time in the world, or specifically 3 months, to just try and woo them and put up the best deal possible.
And they paid for that.
Most likely, yes, they paid for that. So if it doesn't work out,
they did pay for it. So it's one of those things where like the deal, like they're going to be pushing super hard to make a deal because of the amount of money that they put into this. This happened not as much anymore, but this happens a lot. And again, as a sports reference, when Ichiro came over from Japan and Hideo Nomo and a handful of these players, like the baseball teams paid the Japanese baseball team a dollar figure to just talk to those players. And and there was always a bidding war for the ability to talk to them, and then that was for a certain period of time, and then you always heard about the deadline, and usually it ended up being a last midnight deadline of like day 28, and they have 29 days, and then they strike some kind of deal because of how much money was invested into the fact of like, I paid this much money just to talk to you, like we're gonna figure this out.
Yeah, it's not a guarantee Tencent will buy them, but they have the best opportunity to, because they don't have to worry about anyone jumping in last second. And if any like hint of another company offering money or negotiating with them, will immediately like hit some penalties, or potentially could force them to just sell to Tencent.
Right.
It's almost like a right of refusal deal. Yeah, can't talk. That we've seen with other like studio purchases. So just for a little bit of background on like why Tencent would want to buy them. Warframe has 60 million registered players to it. It's highly successful. I mean, there's like conventions dedicated to Warframe, or there used to be, pre-corona. And Layu Technologies has IP deals with Transformers and Lord of the Rings. So this could be very valuable for Tencent to acquire as Tencent tries to move more and more into gaming, which is why Sony was interested in getting part of this. So this could be huge for Tencent, who have just, that we'll talk a little bit Tencent in the next story, but Tencent is definitely getting aggressive with who they're purchasing, and we're in the middle of an arms race, it seems like, with every studio trying to acquire, or every publisher trying to acquire studios right now. A lot of people are being purchased up. Like hearing that Sony was interested in this after purchasing Insomniac, it's kind of,
it's the future proofing.
Crazy.
It's the future proofing conversation that we've been having for a long time. Of like, as you can see with the PS5 reveal already, we're at the point where we're gonna start getting away from physical hardware eventually, and having somebody, whether you're buying them for their game development ability or you're buying this studio just to use, like, as an example, to use Warframe studio talent to be like, okay, this is how this worked, because Warframe's free to play, and you were able to mold this free to play game into this successful player based game that has, huge potential of, expansions. I think it actually has some paid expansions, to where you can continuously build this gameplay loop that these people want to continuously play, and then for them to be able to bring that over even into some of their into Sony's single player games. Like, we've always heard about Guerrilla helping Death Stranding and them helping each other, like Naughty Dog helping Guerrilla, and with it, and Sony Santa Monica having an impact on, like, just having these people in the room just as sounding boards or as colleagues can almost be invaluable.
Yeah, it can definitely be enough to motivate you to add them to your stable, just to have that talent pool to move around as necessary. And then especially because there's like IP deals involved here, you're talking about Transformers and Lord of the Rings, so that those are huge things that, depending on what those deals entail in terms of like exclusivities for games, it makes sense. And Tencent obviously wouldn't care about exclusives, but they just want in on the market any way they can.
And it might be easier to at this point in time in the world that we're in right now, it might be easier to physically buy studios than to buy IPs.
Yes, yeah, especially the way everything's being bought up by like the big three in terms of every IP you can think of.
It's like we were talking about with Warner Brothers. Like, you might buy Warner Brothers and, like you even mentioned, decimate their talent, get rid of their studios because of you want the IPs, you want the rights to the games. Or, like we talked about how much value Warner Brothers would have as a game development company without their IPs.
Yeah. Which, like, thinking about that, the Warner Brothers thing is just like, some IPs aren't going to come with that, and we don't know what the specifics for the IP deals are here, just because, it's a third party that happens to have some rights to specific games. So it could be, it could be one of those things where by the end of the year, we might see a bunch of different studios under different umbrellas.
What do you think the price tag on the studio is?
Okay, so if we use Insomniac's $250 million as a base, I would say this might be worth more than Insomniac. We're probably looking at maybe $300 to $500 $1 million range, I think, because it's multiple studios.
Didn't really own any IPs, right?
No, they didn't, because Sony owns Ratchet, Sony owns Spider-Man, so you're just buying the talent.
Yeah, in that situation, Sony purchased the talent. In this situation, they might be purchasing the properties to then distribute to said talent.
Yeah, you're talking about Digital Extremes, Warframe, because that's the developers and they go hand in hand. They own that. And then you have Splash Damage, who I don't know if they really own any IPs that are of value, but they're, they just put out Gears Tactics, which is a pretty good game. And then also whatever IP deals that Leu Technologies already has. So I would probably say this would probably be like a $500 million deal if they can figure it out, which I'm guessing Tencent is just going to wrap up the deal. I don't think Sony will come out in 3 months and be able to purchase them, especially with all the moves that Sony's currently doing. They probably can't afford to wait around to see if this falls through, which we'll move on to the next story, which also involves Sony, which a lot of people got excited about. And I saw it and I just kind of shrugged my shoulders at. Sony has invested $250 million in Epic Games. So before people get excited, this doesn't affect Unreal Engine on multiple platforms. In reality, Epic just raised $750 million in a round of fundraising, and 250 of that was from Sony. This now puts Epic at about $17 billion in terms of what their net worth is, which means Sony now just owns 1.5% of Epic Games. So they got a spot at the table, but they do not have a voice on what goes on in Epic.
They get to write their vote on a little piece of paper, and it goes in a hat.
Yeah, Tim Sweeney, who still owns a majority of it, puts it on his refrigerator.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, look, here's what Sony wants us to do. That's as far as it goes. It definitely keeps them, like, gives them a seat on the table. And they probably could have invested more because, like, Sony is, I looked it up, like, their estimated net worth is 45 billion, and like their sales yearly is like $70 billion.
Which is fascinating to me because for years all we heard about is the profitability of the company was in the toilet.
Until, they like kind of doubled down on PlayStation. PS4 apparently accounts for, or PlayStation accounts for 40% of their business.
And their TVs have actually been doing really well the last couple of years too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're a big enough company, like their movie studios or television studios are doing pretty well, especially with all the Netflixes and HBOs like negotiating crazy deals for content.
I think that a lot of this purchase could be, and I didn't really read any of the article that you posted for this one, so this is just me kind of speaking off the cuff a little bit. But I mean, we're seeing Sony dabble with their properties on PC. I would assume now that maybe sooner than later, we probably would see them on the Epic Store at least as well, if not exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this could just be a way of, they've got skin in the game and the PC side of it a little bit more now as they're diving in. Like, we've heard all the rumors about, or not rumors, or seen it in the contract about MLB The Show. I could see that being one of the first games that maybe shows up on Epic Game Store instead of on Steam.
Oh, for sure.
Unless Steam can make some kind of deal between the two of them, because at least now that Sony could see benefits from selling on Epic Game Store directly into their wallets, and also with the profit sharing that they have through Epic.
Yeah, and this little stuff, like we talked about the last one, maybe gives them just a little bit more access to some of the engineers from the Unreal Engine. That they're just to look at the technology, like Unreal Engine has really good networking stuff because of Fortnite for crossplay, so maybe it gets them a little bit more access.
Yeah, I think it gives them more of the colleague standpoint versus the competitor standpoint.
Yeah, to where they can compare notes a little bit more, or ask to compare notes, and Epic will be like, okay, yeah, you own 1% of the company, go for it. So now currently Epic is like, it's Tim Sweeney owns the majority shares, Tencent owns 40%, and then Sony and a bunch of other people own like that remaining like 9% or whatever it would be for them left over after Tencent and Tim Sweeney.
And I hate to keep using sports references, but because I know not everybody likes sports, but this is like Derek Jeter's owner stake in the Florida Marlins, of where he's like the shiny face that you get to see, and then he stands up in front of as the public owner. Not that Sony would be, the public owner of Epic. Obviously, it's Tim Sweeney, but it looked cool for Tim Sweeney to say that he's in partnership with Sony.
Yeah, he had to backtrack a little bit about it, just because people were like, they brought up the demo that we saw last year or last month of the Unreal Engine, where they made that tech demo exclusively for the PlayStation 5, and people freaked out of like, what does that mean? So he had to backtrack a little bit on that, of like, there's no exclusivity deal in terms of the Unreal Engine or any future games. We're still cross-platform. It's just, he, without saying like they barely own shit, he had to put out that like they don't own enough to like change the business.
And more than likely, Sony paid Epic to make that demo, just to, because it's something else that they could use to show off their tech, and not, because anything that at this point in time with PS5, if Sony showed a quote unquote a tech demo, people would rip it apart and try to Easter egg it out to figure out what it is. When Epic showed it, we kind of were like, oh, this would look really cool as a game, but no idea what franchise it would be. It'd be like, if Sony did something, it'd be like, is that a young Nathan Drake? Is that Kratos' kid? Is that,
Yeah. People would immediately try and associate it with a franchise, as opposed to reaching out to Epic, be like, hey, can you see how well the Unreal Engine works on a PS5? And Epic's like, we could. And then Sony probably has to cough up something financially to get them to like mess around with the hardware.
Yeah.
To make a tech demo for them. So then they can see how well their new system works with the most popular engine on the market.
Because that's contrary to popular belief, this is where Epic's money comes from, is Unreal. Fortnite makes a good amount of money for them, but their bread and butter and their foundation of their company is their engine.
Yeah, and I think that's why Epic is doing another round of investments because they have to know like the Fortnite isn't making $1 billion anymore. It's still making like I think that last report I saw was like $400 million, so it's still making a ton of money, but it's you're seeing it slowly dip down to where if Epic
Yeah.
wants to stay at the top or at the level they currently are, they're going to have to get more investments from other companies, and they're going to have to start expanding a little bit more and get more aggressive with the Epic Game Store and pushing their engine to make it like friendly, especially for indie developers, because most indie developers have been using like Unity and other
Right.
engines. So
Well, and
this,
they got
you know,
extremely lucky with Fortnite. I mean, like, yeah, I'm sure that
mhm.
there was a bunch of of thought put into it, but the battle royale system they put in there was kind of like because they helped with Player Unknown Battlegrounds, and then they saw the potential, and then they essentially took that model and I mean, I don't want to demean it, but they took the model of Player Unknown Battleground and dumbed it down, in
Yeah,
terms of a cell shaded thing where it can run on a phone now, and they're on borrowed time, like and the Fortnite's borrowed time could be 5 years still.
yeah, 5 years making hundreds of
Right.
millions, of
But
dollars
it's
for the next
definitely
couple
on the
years.
downward trend for sure.
Yeah, and they're a business, so if they go to investors of like, hey, we made $500 million this year, the investors would be like, well, we made $1 billion last year. So like they as a company they see that and know that if you have investors, they constantly want to see that number go up. Investors are never going to be happy with making money. They want to make more money than they did the year before.
Hmm.
So this is just another one of those business deals. And also it's just something Sony can say they're invested in to like strengthen their portfolio, even if it's a small percentage. They'll see a return on this investment just because Unreal Engine isn't going to go anywhere and Epic isn't going to go anywhere. But that is it for the news.
All right.
Kind of a slow week because we have Microsoft coming out
Well,
next
and we
week.
talked an entire hour about what would have been news for this week.
Yes, we did.
So you can just listen to that separately. It's in the feed previously before this episode. All right. So what we're playing and watching, as you heard at the beginning of the show, I am on a little bit of a run at work. Still trying to establish and get things all back to whatever this normalcy is going to be. So I've been working a lot lately. And my like into I'm working like this 10 to 8:30 shift, and that kind of doesn't give me a morning and it doesn't give me an evening. So that's kind of messed with me a little bit. However, for playing, Destiny did release. They had their Bungie Day, which is a really big deal, on July 7th. And they had a kind of what we're talking about with the living world, where the darkness has gotten even a little bit closer now. Before it was on one planet, now it's on 4 or 5 planets. But the biggest thing that they release every summer around Bungie Day is their moments of triumph, where you can kind of do like your year in review. And one of the things that they're doing with this year's Moments of Triumph is that they're putting a huge emphasis on the 5 raids that they are taking away or vaulting in September. So I think we briefly talked about this, when Beyond Light comes out in September, there's actually a significant chunk of the game that's being put in what they're calling the Destiny Content Vault. They're taking it out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And they're adding a couple other things, but so there are 5 of the 7 raids. Like, yeah, this Destiny 2 has 7 raids right now, and they're taking 5 of those raids and putting them away. And so what they've done is that they have made these 5 raids farmable. And what that means is that you can continuously run these raids over and over again and still get rewards from the game. Before, it was always on a weekly lockout. You did it once and on that character, and that was it, and you couldn't get any other stuff. Now you can keep farming it. And the whole thing is that there's the armor that's coming from these raids, not the weapons, but the armor is going to be able to be carried forward for a couple more seasons in the game. So this is they're kind of trying to put like this little string on the carrot of go get the armor, go farm the roles that you want in terms of like the points that you want in your armor, and it incentivizes people to help your friends because you're actually still getting drops for it. So similar to a lot of the other stuff that Destiny's been doing, there's this checklist that you can go through and you can earn rewards like t-shirts, and there's like this raid ring that costs like $110 and it looks ridiculous. And I'm not gonna buy it, by the way. I'll earn it, but I'm not gonna buy it. But it's been fun. So we've been able to raid with a couple people. I've gotten 2 of the 5 raids done since this came out that I wanted to, of the 5 that I want to get done. I've been able to help our community member. He's active in the Facebook group and in Discord. He's a Patreon supporter as well. That's not why I'm helping him. He's been playing with me before he was a Patreon supporter. But Randy, I've helped him. He never completed a raid in Destiny until last week, and now he completed 2 of them in 2 days. So, and he's been having a good time with that, and it's been fun again. Like, that's the part of the game that I really, really love, is helping or playing with 6 friends, 5 other friends, and doing in the raids they're always fun. Michael hates them.
Yeah, I did Vault of Glass, and now that was it for me.
Yeah, that's coming back, so we're gonna make you do that one of Destiny 2 again now, just for the hell of it.
Now I gotta download Destiny 2 again, which I downloaded like twice and deleted twice.
But no, it's been a lot of fun. It's like seeing the Destiny Discord get a little bit more active, seeing people start asking. There's a lot of people that like to have these boxes checked, or these, like, their list crossed off. So it's been pretty cool. They released another exotic weapon. So the last 2 exotic weapons they've released have actually done some really, really cool things and really felt exotic, instead of just having like a unique set of perks. Like, this does something different, like where you can kill an enemy and pick up it spawns a void ball, and you can pick up this void ball and you can block, you can melee, you can slam dunk with it. Your teammates can pick it up. There's like a heavy attack slam dunk is like you go up near an enemy and just dump all this energy into him, and it kills him, or it takes a significant chunk of damage out of him. So, like, the way that stuff's been working has been really cool. The teasing of the pyramid ships as they continue to come closer and closer and closer to Earth is really been fascinating to see, like, how this is going to lead into the September expansions, which are always, very, very big in terms of story and things that are happening. And the gameplay loop is fun, and you still have a little bit of the power leveling there. It'll be really interesting to see what they're going to do in terms of how they vault these planets, because I feel like they're going to, like, have the darkness take over these planets, because the darkness, the new enemy that's on its way here, is hovering over these 4 planets that they've confirmed are being vaulted. So I'll be really curious to how they try to tell the story of putting them away. Is the darkness going to take over these planets and they're going to be uninhibitable now? Is it going to get? I think they're going to destroy a planet. Like, I think that in the game, like, they're going to do another live event where a planet is eliminated.
But hopefully better.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. It's like there's already been talk of, like, if they decide to get rid of Mercury or get rid of Mars or get rid of Io, how do you watch that? They had us all in the tower to watch the Almighty get blown up, but you can't be in the tower on Earth and see a moon of Saturn. So
could you?
So it'll be really interesting to see what they do with that, and they've got 2 months to continue to try to tell this story. But putting the carrot on the stick of the raids, being able to bring up some of their older content and make it kind of relevant again is always kind of cool, because it was a long time since I ran the first raid, the Leviathan raid in Destiny. It's been a long time. I completed that raid like 30 or 40 times in the first year of Destiny, and and then I hadn't done it for a long time, and we struggled a little bit, but there was still a lot of stuff that we remembered, and using the new weapons and things that the game has given you over time, it was relatively easy. It wasn't, like, challenging at all. Teaching somebody is always kind of fun, and then just the normal jarring back and forth between our friends of making fun of each other while we're just playing a game together. It's always been fun. So it was fun to do that for like 2 nights with the group and just play through that. Then for the most part, that's really all that I was able to play. I need to play Crosscode just to try it out. I know you're going to talk about it some. I'm hearing some really good things about it, so I'm definitely going to check that out. For watching Ubisoft forward, I got Watch Dogs 2 for free on PC, so that might be, I platinumed that game on PS4, but that might be something cool to check out for a little bit and see how it runs on my PC, just to mess around with it. Watching a little bit of stuff, like I said last week, I kind of went on that rant. Like, I'm ready for some somewhat relevant either television shows or content. I caught myself watching the second Percy Jackson movie this week on Disney Plus that I watched with my son. I didn't even know the second movie existed, let alone that it came out in 2013. It's like Percy Jackson's like Sea of Monsters. My son read all the books, and we took him to see Lightning Thief, and he liked the movie, but he's like, it wasn't anything compared to the books. I've never read the books. I was entertained by the movie, so I was like, I watched the second one, and I'm like, oh, is there more? And like, no, it didn't do very well. So it's like, so I watched that on one of the other nights. But other than that, it hasn't really been a whole lot. It's been a lot of work. We're getting ready for my daughter's graduation party. And then just figuring out what September is going to look like for my two oldest kids. One's going to go away to college. The other one's not going to go away to college. So that's been, a little bit of a debate back and forth of looking at the rules. Every university has some different things. The bubble that one university is trying to implement versus what the other one is trying to do. It's like, it's interesting. Following the stories that have been going on this week with the Redskins name change coming. Like that's been like super fascinating. And then, again, from a sports standpoint, we briefly talked about it last week, but hearing all the stuff about Patrick Mahomes' contract, that's been stuff that's actually been worth paying attention to. Baseball's trying to start. So
yeah,
basketball's trying to start.
Yeah, a lot of people are just testing positive left and right. So.
Yeah. So it's just, I mean, there's a lot of things that are interesting, but just been doing some, family duties and trying to get some of that stuff taken care of and prepared. I'll have to, we're getting ready to go on vacation, so we're gonna go out of state to Virginia. So we'll see how that goes.
should be fun.
Yeah.
Fun, probably.
It'll be nice just to get away in general. So.
For me, it's been pretty light video game wise, just because last week I was just focusing on West of Dead and SpongeBob, to prepare stuff for like the YouTube reviews and just the review on the podcast.
Subscribe to us on YouTube.
Yes, please. So the main two things I've been playing has been I jumped back into The Last of Us Part 2 on my second playthrough, just trying to get the cleanup platinum. So playing that, I won't tell you exactly where I'm at because everything's a spoiler with that game, and I know people are still getting through that.
Yeah, there's been a couple people in the Discord. There's a spoiler chat in the Discord, so buyer beware when you enter there. But for the most part, there's some people are saying they're getting close, and we're still getting feedback on the spoiler cast. So as you finish the game, go listen to it. Let us know.
Yeah, and it'll always be there for you. So I'm going through my second playthrough, just kind of using a guide just to find all the like artifacts, because you have to find like all the letters if you want to get the platinum, and there's a ton of them. One of the characters collects, state coins, so I'm guessing all 50 of them need to be collected, and I have about 23 right now, so got a little bit of ways to go. It is, because I know what I'm doing now, it's fun to see the difference in the playtime, because I make multiple saves, so just seeing like, I'm like 5 hours ahead of where I was because I know what I'm doing, and
you don't care. You're just running and gunning.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm New Game Plus, so I have all my upgrades from the previous one, so I just kind of feel like a badass, My guns are, for the most part, fully updated. Like, the second part of that game, with New Game Plus, like, the weapons that I have fully upgraded are beautiful.
Yeah.
So it's just been easy running through it. And I also knocked it down to the easiest difficulty to make it even, an easier time. So I'm playing it on very easy. On New Game Plus. So
I wonder if I should just have my son play on my account on New Game Plus for him to experience the story, but still get stuff for me.
Yeah, that you probably should do that. It isn't too bad. The only thing that kind of sucks is once you upgrade your character, both the weapons and the actual character, the junk you collect for the weapons and the supplements you collect for, the actual abilities, they just disappear from the game from a certain point on. So on New Game Plus, like maybe a couple hours into your first playthrough, you'll have, Ellie fully upgraded and at like boss level. So, but
you still have to dig through the drawers to find the letters and the coins.
Mm-hmm, yeah. So there's a lot of times in this second playthrough where I'm opening up drawers and they're just empty. They're all empty. And I'm hoping a letter is in one of them. But that's why I'm using a guide, just to be like, okay, is there something in this area? Cool. There's one letter, then let me find it exactly and then continue. And then the other game I'm playing is Crosscode, which is a like retro, like 16-bit pixel art action RPG. This one is getting a lot of praise right now, and I can see why. There's a ton of content in this game. I'm hoping I can get through most of it to give a proper review next week or the week after, based on how much stuff is in this game. It might take a while. It's like Zelda inspired because there's a lot of dungeons, and it's just a brawler aspects of it. Just the action RPG aspect of the game. The story is interesting. It's definitely not completely unique. As soon as I was told the story, I'm like, oh, okay, so it's like like a Ready Player One situation or many other games where you play a character named Leah, and you are logging into like a future MMO where you're like just logging into this like VR virtual game, and you're living your character in this old school like Zelda-like game, and the combat is melee based combat, but there's also like some twin stick shooter aspect with it as well, because you can like shoot like spear like power balls around and use like the sticks to like aim. So the complexity or like the diversity in like the gameplay there is really good. It has like one of the scariest like skill trees that I've seen in a while. When I clicked into it, and I just when I clicked into it and I just saw all the options. Luckily, it's one of those ones where you can kind of just pick wherever you want in a skill tree. You don't have to like worry about going one branch and losing the other. It's just like it's just all there. So you're just like throwing points in it. Right now, I'm just kind of in the grinding portion of it. But for the most part, like the combat's really satisfying. The dungeons are really good. Some of the puzzles are a little obtuse. Like they don't really tell you too much. It's one of those games that it's not going to hold your hand. So depending on if you like that sort of game, it could be frustrating. I'm kind of indifferent about that style of game, so I'm enjoying it so far. I'm just kind of in that grind. They have so many different side quests to throw at you. It can be a little overwhelming. I felt like I was just in too deep at a certain point when I just kept taking side quests to where I just like stopped taking them.
Well, I saw you tweet something that you might have to start listening to podcasts now while you're grinding.
Yeah, that's basically what I was doing. I was just listening to different podcasts during the day, and I'm just grinding away at this game.
Does the grind feel rewarding though? Like in terms of like, is it making you like go through the next level of content easier?
It's definitely making things easier, and the actual grinding's pretty fun just because the enemy types are pretty interesting and varied. So there's a challenge there, especially early on. The game will constantly tell you like, hey, we can't really handle these enemies, and I take that challenge almost every time and just keep working at it. It seems like every single screen in this game, there's like a puzzle for you to solve in terms of like a platforming puzzle of like, okay, I see a potential power up or an item there. How do I get to the item? And then trying to find like a route to that item is like a nice touch and an easy distraction. It's very easy to get kind of like lost in this game. The only thing that I dislike about this game is the map sucks. Like the map is terrible. Like it almost shouldn't exist. It's so bad.
Jeez.
To where every time I pull it up, I'm just like, okay, this doesn't actually help me at all. So I ended up never using the map. So like I get lost.
Jedi Fallen Order bad?
I don't know how that map looks. Did that map just lack detail? Because this map just kind of lacks detail to where it's like,
it was
you
like
are
a
here.
hologram on top of where you currently were.
No, this one, at least in the early parts of the world, it's just like, here's a dot and you're in this big gray square, and you're just like, okay, how the fuck does this help me? Like, I don't know. Like, there's no parts of the map, or at least like the early parts of the map. I'm probably like 6 to 10 hours into this thing where I'm just like, okay, I look on the map. This doesn't help me. I don't really see any landmarks. Maybe I'm missing an upgrade, but it's just, it didn't help me at all. But I'm just kind of grinding away and I'm kind of playing it like an MMO, like the game is based on, because MMOs, you kind of just hop in and you just wander around and do stuff as they come, and that's how I'm treating the game.
Mm-hmm.
Even if there is a deeper story to it. I'm just like, if I happen to run into the story, cool. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going to different screens and beating the enemies and trying to figure out how to get the power-ups and upgrades. So working on that. It is a long game, so I'm probably going to be playing it for a while before we do an official review on it. It is on yeah, you need to play it. It's on PS4, Switch, Xbox One, and Steam. It was on Steam actually, I think 2 years ago, and it's finally on consoles.
Dude,
which
why
is
didn't you get this
now.
game on Switch?
It turns out the Switch version is super popular, and when you look at the game, it definitely, you can see why it's popular, because it's perfect for the Switch screen. Though I hear the Switch version does have issues with frame rate.
Okay, not
so
super surprising, but
yeah, not surprising at all. So I went with the PS4 version of this game. So hopefully it hold up throughout the whole experience, or I'm gonna regret not getting it on the Switch. Then other than that, nothing really. I dabble in Overwatch still when I get bored. That's another podcast game, because I'm subscribed to 30 podcasts, but I don't have a work commute, so gotta do what I can to play or to listen to podcasts. And just watching random movies. Just watched Ratatouille yesterday, and we're gonna go through the Guardians of the Galaxy movies again. And then I've been watching Master Chef Australia. Just because Master Chef's one of my favorite shows. Me and Sarah love watching Master Chef. Sarah loves baking, so Master Chef's a great show. And we realized that there's probably not going to be a Master Chef this year, because they usually would have filmed it in spring and released it in summer and fall, and they probably didn't do Master Chef. So I'm watching Master Chef Australia from last year.
What's the first reality show to have somebody yelling at somebody through an iPad?
Ooh, I don't know. Can you do Survivor where it's a selfie sticks?
Can we do The Bachelor just on Zoom dates?
I would watch that. I'm against the Bachelorette show, but I would watch them just on Zoom dates. Yeah, I would watch that.
Because there's one sitcom that my wife and I watched that we've been watching on CBS All Access. It's called All Rise, and they actually released an episode a couple of weeks after the whole pandemic started, and they did. It's a courtroom, she's a judge, and so she actually did a virtual trial, and they actually made the storyline based on current events happening in the the show centered in Los Angeles. And so obviously Los Angeles was a hot zone, and the safety and the prisoners' rights, and the defendants' rights, and the rights of the country. And they did it through Zooms or Skypes or whatever they were using, and it was pretty cool to see them try to do something like that. And I think it'd be very, very interesting to see obviously a cooking competition comes down to taste as well as presentation. Mm-hmm. But I would love to see some type of, I don't even know, competitive reality show that was done virtually. I think that would be fascinating.
You could do American Idol virtually, if you wanted to. If you're really into court stuff, you can just find a YouTube channel for your local courthouse, because all that stuff is being live streamed, and that's also really depressing.
No, because that could end up being my neighbor or something. I'm good.
It might be. Because I accidentally fell on the Chicago YouTube channel for the courts, and watched it for a half hour and be like, this is depressing. And I couldn't watch it anymore. But yeah, I'm starting to hit that point you are with sports, where I need new stuff. Yeah. Which is why you'll see me every couple days yell on Twitter about release Mulan, release Black Widow, release Tenet, just release it digitally, because I'm not going to a movie theater anytime soon.
Well, and again, I'm seeing some really cool trailers. They're starting to kind of dabble and talk about release dates, and I'm like, we haven't seen any data from Onward, any of these movies that only came out of Disney Plus. Did they up Disney Plus's their subscription members? I can't think of any of them off the top of my head, but did any movie coming only to Amazon or coming to Vudu directly, in the long run, did that help? Or is it people aren't releasing quote unquote box office numbers because you're not paying $11 a person to go watch a movie now?
Yeah, so the only numbers I heard was from Trolls.
Okay.
Apparently it did ridiculously well. It beat like their box office expectations.
So why would they
But
ever release their next movie in a theater?
Because of some weird bullshit political thing. But that's why AMC basically said they're not going to have any Universal movies at their theater in the future.
Yeah, and then Amazon said, we'll just buy you and do whatever we want.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like there is people that want new content and people are willing to pay that premium for it.
I think
it's some weird studio political bullshit.
Yeah, this might be the same. We might be starting to have the same conversation about movies that we've been having about video games for the last couple of years, of like where discs are just a formality.
Yeah, I don't understand why there's so much resistance for like. I understand Christopher Nolan is a crazy person who wants his movie seen in the perfect setting, which is a movie theater. But at a certain point, you just got to fucking give up and realize we are in a different situation. If movie theaters open up tomorrow, like full capacity or part capacity in Chicago, I am not going to one.
Right.
I will not go to one for a year from now.
But I still wonder, though, okay, so like in your situation, if I'll just use this as an example. Disney comes out and says Black Widow is coming out July 31st on Disney Plus Plus or whatever they're going to call it. Mm-hmm. What's the price that you would pay to watch that or to own it?
I would probably play Blu-ray price. I would pay $20 because me and Sarah, if we wanted to see it, it's $15 each.
Right. That's what for me. It's like $25 to $30. I'd be okay to buy it and to own it. You know, like.
If they wanted to, I was thinking about it, just put the pre-orders for the Blu-ray out now. And if you pre-order the Blu-ray, pay for the Blu-ray ahead of time at a premium price, it comes with a copy to stream the movie now. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't really want to buy a Blu-ray, but if they tell me, hey, the Black Widow Blu-ray's $30, if you pay for it now and we'll mail it to you when it comes out, but you get a digital code to watch it today, I'm going to do that. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just a rental, like not to own.
Yeah, but
rental.
We always hear about trying to get movies from the theater to the house as fast as possible. Mm-hmm. Now there's a reason for it to just skip the theater. And I thought,
and they're not taken.
By now, we'd see somebody take the step, take a huge step. Like if there's a movie that's ready, somebody just do it, please. Just like it's the same thing we were talking about with video game pricing. I just want somebody to say, you know what, my video game cost $100. Here's what I'm giving you. This is why it's $100. Here's the next Avengers movie, or here's the next Fast and Furious movie. It costs $30, $35. You own it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, because if you like the movie, you're probably going to buy the physical or digital version after it comes out anyways.
After you pay $20 or $25 to go to the movie, and then you're going to pay $20 or $25 to own the movie.
Yeah, just get the money right now. I'm willing to do it. Yeah. Well, it's why Sony Pictures, their new Tom Hanks movie, they just gave up on it coming to the theater, and then they sold it to Apple for like an ungodly amount of money, and now it's going to be available on Apple Plus in like the next couple weeks. And I don't know why studios just don't do that, because like Disney has a platform they can release it on to bump up their numbers. Mm-hmm.
And I bet you that Tom Hanks movie will bump up Apple's numbers.
Yes, yeah, because he is a name and it's a movie people probably want to see, especially Tom Hanks fans probably want to see all of his movies. And HBO is owned by Warner Brothers, so Warner Brothers has a bunch of movies. If I'm Sony, Universal, or like one of the smaller studios, I'm putting my movie theater stuff up for a bidding war and trying to get whatever money I can. And that's what Sony did with like the Tom Hanks movie, where Apple paid them a shit ton of money. I don't know why you wouldn't do that if you don't have your own like streaming service.
It's an unlikely example, but how much would Netflix or HBO Max pay? And I don't know all the rights and the IP ownership, but if Fast and Furious 8 or whatever 9 came out and said, "Hey, we want to release digitally and we'll sell our rights to the highest bidder," like how much do you think that these companies would pay for that?
Right? Yeah, no, it totally. I'm trying to see how much. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to see how much. Okay, so Apple paid Sony $70 million for that Tom Hanks movie. Which cost $50 million to make.
So they automatically made a profit off of it, and I'm sure Sony still gets a snippet of X amount of Apple's subscriptions for the next 90 days or something.
Yeah, and then when it comes out on Blu-ray, they'll get the full,
Right.
you know,
It might only be like 10
cost of
cents
that.
a subscriber or $2 a subscriber. Or I don't even know what it would be, but I'm sure that there's some type of percentage of from release date till 60 days out that there's some
Yeah,
quote unquote royalty that Sony gets for that.
yeah, like how many people stream the specific movie, and then Sony will get a check cut.
Right.
But yeah, so like if the Tom Hanks movie got 70 million, you could probably get Jesus. You can probably
Double?
get a lot of money.
For Fast
No,
and
more.
Furious? Yeah, triple? Like
No.
250, 300, 400?
I think because it's a $1 billion franchise, you can probably get like $500 million for like
Yeah.
that, maybe. And it's probably be worth it because theaters, even when they open, aren't going to be
At
full
capacity. Yeah. And it's the
Most of them are 25.
It's the conversation again, though. All of a sudden, somebody picks up Netflix or they pick up Disney Plus because they want to see said movie, and then they go, "Oh, I didn't know it had all this stuff." And then then all of a sudden they just forget that they have the subscription, and it's just coming out of their bank account every 30 days.
Yep. Hey, shit. I'm subscribed to like half a dozen things that I keep forgetting to cancel.
All right, I didn't necessarily mean to go on like on a little movie tirade, but I'm at this point with you. Like, there's got figured out. Like the stores figured
I
it
want
out.
to be excited.
The
about
stores
something.
figured it out. Companies figured it out. Curbside, contactless, all these food deliveries. Like they figured out a way to somewhat stay relevant. Like, come on, entertainment industry, let's figure something out.
And they can't be afraid of bootlegs because movies get bootlegged no matter what.
Right.
So like even if they put a clean version of a movie out, like it's gonna get bootlegged even if it was in theaters.
Yeah.
But that's it for me. That's all I'm playing and watching.
All right, so we're going to go to our questions and comments. You can send us questions using hashtag AskDigitalDays. You can post them in the Facebook group. You can post them in Discord. Again, all of those social networks are linked in the show notes below, or on your next page on your podcast app or whatever. The click more section. So Josh writes, what do you want to see Microsoft? What do you want Microsoft to announce on July 23rd? I don't know, because I don't know enough about Microsoft in general in terms of what they own. I mean, I know what studios they own, but I'm not I haven't played a lot of their franchises that they own. Like, as I've heard really cool things about the Fabled games, never played them. You know, dabbled a little bit in Gears, but it sounds like that's kind of played out. We know we're going to see something from Halo. But for the most part, like I think, you know, like we're going to see some Hellblade stuff. But I want to see, I guess if you really want to ask me, I want to see something that's got a new IP that's some kind of new gameplay initiative. What that is, I have no idea.
Yeah. For me, I want to see a new Fable just because it's one of those franchises I kind of missed, and it's been long enough that they're probably just going to reboot it if they do bring it back, which means it'll be a perfect time for me to jump in. Oddly enough, I associate Mass Effect with Microsoft just because Mass Effect 1 was exclusive to 360. So I would love to see the Mass Effect remaster that we constantly hear about announced there. Just because, again, I associate Mass Effect with Microsoft. I know that's third party, but there might be third party stuff at this event. And then the last thing I can think of is like Banjo and Kazooie. I mean, they put them in Smash, so maybe that's a good way to bring them back and get people excited for that. So I think it's like Banjo, Fable, and then like my wild card is like a Mass Effect situation. Because I still think EA's thing from a couple weeks ago was really light on content, and I'm hoping it's light on content because they have like an exclusivity deal or some sort of like world premiere deal with Microsoft or Sony, because Sony apparently has a rumored event as well. So I'm hoping they were light at their own presentation because someone cut them a check to world premiere on someone else's like presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my dreams, is like Mass Effect and like Banjo, Fables. Maybe they can do their own PlayStation All-Star Smash Brothers thing. It's been joked about for years, but maybe they can put together something. They have a stable now of studios with characters.
I guess I just want them to maybe show something that I didn't know that I wanted that I want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's you know, that's surprise. Like Ghost of Tsushima comes out this week, and they showed that at whatever E3 last year, and we're like, what is this? You know, like what you know, what kind of game is this? And you know, like same thing with Naughty Dog years ago with Last of Us. Like, what? It's not Indiana Jones meets Tomb Raider? Like, what is this?
Yeah,
So,
if we walk away from the event next week and it's just the new Halo, a new Gears, and a new Crackdown, I'm gonna be super disappointed.
yeah,
You know,
with some Forza sprinkled on top.
yeah, with some Forza, if they just hit us with like the big games that we already know and played a bunch of the last gen,
Yeah.
then I'm gonna be disappointed. So I'm there with you. I either want them to bring back something really old or just have something new, like brand new IP that shows off the hardware.
At this point in time, I don't even really care about showing off the hardware. Like, show me a cool game. Like, show me something cool and different. And I don't know what that is, or unique at least. Maybe different's too hard of a word, but like a new take on a first-person shooter or a new take on a third-person game, like any of those things. So
yeah.
All right. Next question. Andy sends it in. Either of you have any opinions on the Atari VCS? Pre-order price got sent to me this weekend and looks like it's $389. What is this?
So Atari announced a new console. God, I want to say like 2 years ago now.
No, don't care.
Yeah, yeah. It is like half as powerful as a base PS4, or like 1/4 as powerful as a base PS4.
$400?
Yes. I believe the controller is sold separately.
Andy, don't buy this, man.
Yeah.
Is this Andy from Too Young to Be This Old?
Yes, yes, it says.
He's like the same age I am, right?
Yes.
Why?
Might be, no. He's like a year younger than me, I think.
Yeah, okay, that makes it even worse. Why are you wanting this Atari? Like, I have vague memories of Atari. Like vague as a kid, like literally vague memories, and they weren't good.
No, yeah.
And old man Langford's not here to make fun of me, so or defend the architectural property.
The console shell has fake wood paneling on it. This thing is just a joke. I've been watching videos of people reacting to it. Like, one of the big things it was selling, it's like it runs Fortnite and it's Linux based, but it's actually just running like a shell of Windows 10 on it. So you're loading up like the Windows 10 version of
Andy,
Fortnite.
No. I'm gonna tell your wife.
It has it comes with 100 built-in games from Atari, but you can buy that bundle for $10 on Steam right now.
Yeah, if any of these games were any good, they would have been remastered or redone.
Yeah, it's
no.
real bad. For a while, people were wondering because they were taking pre-orders before, like they were doing something to where they took people's money and then they went dead silent until they did the pre-orders recently, and it's $389. It's a joke. If you want a good laugh.
There are people that this price point is their breaking point for a next-gen console.
Yeah, and they're putting out something weaker than a PS4, a base PS4.
Andy, no.
Don't do it. This is going to be another Ouya situation, but potentially worse, because at least Ouya was priced reasonably for what it was.
Gosh.
This is bad. If you want to entertain yourself, watch some YouTube videos of people breaking down the specs of this. I fell in a rabbit hole when I saw this question last week of just like, let me check up on it.
Falling in rabbit holes on YouTube is like eating an apple.
Yeah, it's a normal mundane task to me. But this was like almost cringe watch of just people that were excited about this get really angry about how shitty it is, and it's great. And they're gonna launch this before new consoles come out, which is just even better.
Andy, if you buy this console and you don't support us on Patreon, I'm kicking you out of the group. If you have that much money to waste, I've got a better cause for you there, buddy.
I can't wait to see people buy this, because people are going to buy it and they're going to be like, oh, this goes on my shelf.
Oh my gosh.
I do nothing with it.
All right.
I run NES emulators on this.
Randy Pinnock says, do we need next gen already? I feel like the PS4 Pro and One X gave enough of an improvement to hold me for at least 2 more years. Still getting both PS5 at launch if I can. Okay. Still getting both PS5 at launch if you can. Okay. Do I think we need next gen now? Yes, because I think that with the lines blurring between the platforms, that in order for them to completely go away, it would have to be based on their, 2013, they weren't thinking about crossplay.
Mhm.
And I think for it to work properly, effectively, and correctly, we need new consoles.
I agree. It's funny if you go back to like episode 5 of this podcast. I think I was saying like I don't even think we really need new consoles, but as we go on in time, I desperately want a new console. A lot of people are pointing to how amazing The Last of Us looks. As like
It better look when it takes 4.5 minutes to load every time you start the game.
No, and that's what I was going to bring up. Is just like, yeah, no, it takes a long time to load, and also not every studio is Naughty Dog.
Yeah, and all those cutscenes are loading screens too. If you don't know that,
basically. And I played a bunch of other games other than The Last of Us, where I see like the walls other developers are hitting, and we need that bump up in power to get to the next step.
And the stuff that we've been learning, like the little bit of stuff that we learned from Sony about talking about how game development works with the hard drives and stuff like that. And you play Last of Us Part 2, all of those shortcuts are in there. It doesn't demean from the game at all, but all that time where you're shimmying through 2 close wall sections, like the game is getting ready to load what you see when you turn 90 degrees. Like it's all doing that. And that's because those games can't keep up with it. So like in order for everything to be cohesive and to work well and for development to continue and to grow and to evolve, the consoles have to be upgraded. Because even if they come out this year, they're still going to be using 2016, 2017, late 2017 hardware.
Yeah. Which means, 5 years from now, we're going to be like, man, we really need a pro version of the PS5. Yeah, like The Last of Us is a great example of like what this hardware can do, but they maxed out the hardware. I'm sure they've talked about maxing out the hardware.
And I bet you we're going to see ton. And again, it's not a dig on Sucker Punch. It's not a dig on Sony Studios, but we're going to see a ton of those tricks with Ghost of Tsushima, because it looks like the movement in Ghost of Tsushima is going to be crazy fast at times.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also like Dave's big problem with The Last of Us is like missing out on content where he'll go through a door and then the door no longer opens and he can't backtrack. It's like The Last of Us, yeah, they have big open areas, but anytime they need you to load into another area, you shimmy through a wall or you lift up a barrier, and once you go through that barrier, you can't backtrack because it doesn't want to load that old information anymore. It wants to continue moving you forward, and they can't handle having all of that stuff loaded into the game for you to freely explore.
Half joking, half serious, because I thought it was funny just because of the way it worked, but if you ever pay close enough attention to Last of Us, this is not a spoiler. This is a funny thing. Doors open both ways in that game, and they shouldn't.
Yeah.
A hotel room door opens inward, and then when you leave the room, it opened outward.
Yeah. We need technology to allow proper door.
No, I just thought it was hilarious. Like,
yeah, no, I know what you mean. There's a lot of little weird stuff like that.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, but yeah, like, the technology needs to move, and then Ethan in the chat says like 3 years we'll probably see a pro version, and that's true. Yeah, we'll probably see the pro versions of these platforms.
Well, I also
we'll need them.
Don't want to see a current gen game on 3 discs.
Yeah, that too. Don't want to see it on I don't want to see games on multiple generation of consoles either. Because I want to move over, but we won't see that anytime soon.
All right, so those are our questions. Again, you can send those using hashtag AskDigitalDays. So our spotlight, again, if you haven't listened to it, by the time you're listening to this, it's already on the feed. The Ubisoft Forward recap is on our podcast feed. Again, feedback, any of that stuff is always appreciated. And just to let us know what you guys think about that stuff, bonus episode content. We love doing that kind of thing. It gives us the ability to flesh this show out a little bit better and not have this be like a Ubisoft show strictly. We're at like an hour 20 right now into this, hour 15 into this, and we didn't talk about it at all. So it gives us the ability to not feel pressured or stressed or rushed. It lets us focus on what we want to focus on. So that's definitely my spotlight. So.
Yeah, my spotlight is our YouTube channel, which we talked about earlier. Use the YouTube search to find Digital Days Gaming. We need to hit a certain subscriber count so we can get a fancy URL.
So hit the subscriber button while you're there.
Yeah, please, because we have 2 new video reviews, The West of Dead and SpongeBob Rehydrated. Those are on there. And then also I hosted Too Young to Be This Old and did a whole episode about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So check
Oh
them
my
out.
gosh.
Check them out wherever you get podcasts if you want to listen to me talk about 90s Power Rangers with Ben.
And there should be something pretty cool hitting the feed again too in the next 10 days as well. I don't want to like spoil it or say anything for you guys to expect it, but we've got some cool opportunities coming up again. So hopefully everything lines up and works out well, that we can have some additional bonus content for you as well. And speaking of bonus content, if you want any access to that, you can go to patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming. And for the dollar tier, you can just say, hey, we love, we like what you're doing, we love what you're doing, and we want to throw $1 a month to you, and that's appreciated. That essentially pays for a month of our podcast hosting. $3 gets you special access to a Discord channel. Discord, we're still growing it, still building that community, and this is a separate channel within that current server that is only for $3 tier subscribers. You also get access to that if you link your Discord and Twitch and you're a subscriber. So whether it's through Twitch Prime or paid subscriptions or even gifted subscriptions, as long as your Discord is linked to your Twitch, you'll have access to that and you're in our Discord. $5 gets you the weekly podcast 24 hours early, so all the numbered episodes. The other episodes, any of the bonus content we do, we release day and date for everybody. And $7 gets you access to bonus content. May, June, and July all have a bonus episode that allows us to show you a little bit more of our personalities and why we think and how we think and what we do, whether it's our E3 memories or our retail lives a little bit, or even like why we got into podcasting, writing, and video game playing in the first place. I think that August is going to be a little bit of possibly food centric, and I think some of you will be very fascinated by Michael's odd eating habits. So,
or completely normal if you're normal.
So I would love to see some questions or suggestions on some food topics that you guys would like us to talk about, and maybe I'll clip one or two of those out and release it publicly to show you guys what you're missing. So. Other than that, follow us on Twitter. Our main account at Digital Days Pod. Michael's account is at First MJC. Mine is at Good Dave Hunt. And again, just join the Facebook group, join the conversations in the Facebook and Discord. And I hope everyone has a great week. And like Michael always tells everybody, weekly.
Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick, and see ya.
Talk to you guys later. That one stopped. Twitch is still live. So that stopped. Ethan, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. Appreciate it, bud. Much appreciated. All right. Thanks for hanging out in the chat, guys. Thanks for listening. So we will talk to you guys later. So hope everyone has a great week.